This previous speaker was a supposed great sharer. He made a whole lot of landish statements about the leader of the Labour Party. And his speech stunk like the shitty dags.
Order.
Oh.
Now, we just spent some time with the previous speaker establishing some protocols about what's acceptable in this House. And that kind of terminology is not. Honourable Parakura.
I apologise, Mr. Speaker. I thought being a farmer you'd appreciate that, Mr. Speaker, but... and that's what it was. It was outrageous, outlandish, and full of statements that misrepresented a warped and bent speech. It was a speech not for this time. And dare he talk about the leadership in this party, because we know he's trying to go to unseat John Key and my relation Heke Prata be the deputy. Now that's one thing I do agree with. That's one thing I do agree with the National Party. It's wonderful. And we know, because we're watching Mr. Guy, what's he going to do about the people in Carter Holt who are getting put off in Otaki? He's silent. He's not saying anything. He won't do anything. And this is the same person who used to mistreat fleesos and give the workers in the shed a hard time. And that's what he's continued to do while he's coming to
Point
Parliament.
of order. Point of order.
Offence, Mr. Speaker, to that, and I ask the member to withdraw and apologise.
I'll determine what the appropriate course of action is. I have to say that I had difficulty in picking up the exact diction, so I'm not able to determine. I can't recollect exactly what was said. So I just asked the member. Let's just all have a breath and just probably attempt to be just a little bit more courteous in our conduct to members across the House, from both sides.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. E mihi kauna kia koe, mo toku tū I te makakoro atu mo te tangata rei. I thought I'd go into Māori so it could be translated well for you, Mr. Speaker, because I've learnt the English language reasonably well. But that member over there, with other members over there, Mr. Speaker, has continued to bastardise the opportunities of workers in this country. He's done that. He's ignored this. And they flip-flopped around and puffed about their GST and what it'll do for people. And we do know that 70% of it will go to 3% of those who are paying tax. And their mates at the top end will certainly get away while they're punishing the working class. And I suppose at the end of the day, when he says they're trying to increase employment, how come youth unemployment has doubled in their watch? And there's an uncanny practice that is continuing that was prevalent when they were last in government, when you were last in government, the National Party.
Order.
You see them...
Yes.
Yes.
You know what the error was. Don't do it
Mr.
again.
Speaker. When the National Party was last in government, they took the minimum wage up 35 cents. The benefit to taxpayers Māori, and there are 204,000 on the income under 38,000, will be between 33 cents and $1.31. What a laugh. What a crock. And that's what the Prime Minister's trying to sell to the working class in this country. And you took the minimum wage up 37 cents in your last period of time. We took it up 8-9 times. And we ensured that the economy was strong and it was surviving and that people were employed. And I'd ask this question quite bluntly. What is the government going to do about the 550 Māori in Hastings who have since lost their employment over the last 9 months? What are you going to do about that, Chris Tremaine? Because you know it, you see it, and you were at Motown on Saturday night.
Order. Can you just be a little more careful with your pronouns? You're including the Speaker in your debate.
He was at Motown, trying to imitate the Indigenous people. That's what he was trying to do. And that's what's come out of the Prime Minister's speeches. Platitudes and patronising the Indigenous people, the Tangata people. Tariana Turia knows full well that she's got a battle on her hands. The Prime Minister preached 1.2 billion. Tariana knows she'll be lucky if she gets a couple of million. He starts talking about pressing waterbeds. And he gets this notion that he's so sexy that when he smiles, everybody falls over. What a crock. You know, is he aware that over 240,000 Māori earn less than 30,000 a year? And if so, why isn't he doing something about it? And why are they objecting to the rise in the minimum wage for $15, up to $15? This GST program will put more, Georgina, into hardship. And it should be shame. Shame. And Paula Bennett knows that. It's not wrong, mister. And you know and wired it up as that, that's fine. Here's this person who's been siding with Bill English. Bill English alleges all his problems are someone else's. That's what he started off saying. He was blaming us. But the last Labour government let the books in their strongest position ever. For his first year in office, he hid behind the global economic crisis. Everything was the fault of everybody else offshore, but did nothing to respond other than cutting superannuation pre-funding. He believes that it's all Labour's fault, but the facts are these. Under Labour, gross government debt was cut in half. Cut in half. That's what happened. Chris Tremaine knows that. Under Labour, net debt was reduced to zero. It was down there. Net debt was reduced to zero. And you know full well about that. Under Labour, New Zealand achieved the lowest unemployment in the Western world. And at 3.4%, that was outstanding. That when we came in, Māori unemployment was tracking between 21 to 24%, and we took it down to 7%. That's the best performance for a long time. And now in Wairau, Mr. Tremaine, in your area, it's 38%. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about it? In your area, don't just go out for a ride on that flash truck that you're using as free advertising in the airport parking lot and go and visit the Maoris. You do something about it, because you know full well that it's a disgrace. It's a real disgrace. Under Labour, economic growth was about 1% per year, and that was healthy. It was outstanding, and it was good for the families, it was good for the economy, and everybody got there. And people were getting educated, lifelong education. That Shearer up there, he was talking about education. Do you know half of the providers of the community programs have now signed off or been pushed out? So communities don't matter in the sense of those things that they go to night classes and whereabouts. Don't huff and puff about education when the youth unemployment rate has near doubled. Does that mean that there are no real challenges today? No, it does not. What does it mean is that Labour has a proud record and Bill English wishes that record was his. We don't see enough in relation to the R&D. What happened with R&D? There's been a long preaching there about innovation. And yet, one of the first things you did was cut back the R&D. And you cut back the R&D. It was like Wakatoy. And I want to say to all those Māoris over there, why are you cutting back Wakatoy? Why are you knocking them over? I thought we were proud about our culture, our arts and whatever else. Tell me that. So they're getting desperate when they're pulling funds from areas that don't really matter. Look, hard-working Kiwis deserve better, and we know that. And it really is important to understand that everybody is seeing through this GST trick. You know, there was a whole lot of ranting and raving about the gap between the wages of Australia and New Zealand. But the last time that the national government was in, they created a gap of nearly 15%. And the same thing is starting to happen now. And it's held, and it's steady and held at that percentage. That's what happened then. That's what happened then, the increase in the sense of the wage gap. You know full well what? The difference between the income in every household here per week measured against that income in every household in Australia. You're sticking it to the working class people, you're ignoring them, and you're playing footsie with all of your well-off notes at the top end. And that's a disgrace. That's outlandish. And who owns the farms? That's right. I own the farm. That's right. I own the farm because I worked hard for it. That's right. And I've been to cut scrub on the side of the hill and fence in the rain to make sure you get there. Our people don't even get that chance anymore because you've denied it through your slippery GST program. That's what you've done. And you know it, Mr. Tremaine? This is outrageous. This is outrageous. The Speaker did that. The Speaker worked in the rain and he set up the... That's why he's got a farm. That's why the...